For the first time in a number of years, that the last 4 or 5 weeks, quite proud to be Welsh in terms of the way the regions are playing and the success of Cardiff Blues in the Challenge Cup. Winning that breeds self-confidence and the self-belief of those players who have come in only this week, and the Scarlets, how they've bounced back, from their Leinster sort of loss, and then in the Pro 14 final, and I think we're all rooting for that success now. They won it last year. I think the one thing that they've got a lot of cohesion, and they're up against a side that beat them quite comfortably only a couple of weeks ago. But the great thing when you play in regional rugby, you get another opportunity, and I'm sure that the Scarlets boys are really looking forward to this opportunity, and I think you'll see a very different result to come this weekend. So hopefully there's no injuries, and they're bored with us then on Sunday, and then look forward to the next journey, which is Washington.
And no difficulty in backing up playing Saturday to Saturday. I mean, that's just like a normal week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a normal week. I think you see in the calendar of World Rugby now, and certainly back in 2017, the experience we had with the Lions, I think we were playing after 5 days against the Provincial Barbarians. When you look at Super Rugby, the 6-day turnaround, the 5-day turnaround, I think it's that is the rugby calendar, and obviously I think they're looking to change things post 2019, and I think that the one thing which when you look at all the players, Tom Pridey has been in our camp many years ago, but all the other players were involved in our Six Nations campaign, and they'll seamlessly fill into the role which they'll adopt over the next couple of weeks. So I think the good thing about it, when you look at the Cardiff boys and the Scarlet boys in particular, they come in with a great amount of confidence, self-belief, and they'll only add to our environment.
Well, the Ospreys haven't played, at least most of your players can be well battled.
Well, that's almost a good thing. You talk about whether it's battle hardened or being fresh. From our environment, it's almost about being battle hardened. I think that the players. All the players have played in the last couple of weeks, bar the Dragons boys. They've been in over the last couple of weeks. I think Bernard has had them in as well, training over the last couple of weeks as well. But there's no sort of replacement for playing the game, and the players have come in. This week 17 players, and we've prepared as best as we can with the numbers we've got and in the time we've got. And thankfully, I think the last game we played in the autumn was South Africa. I'm sure it's a far different side that we'll play in Washington, but the journey that we're on is a 2-year journey, and I think we've been, Warren in particular, has set that journey out over the last 2 years, the last 18 months, and we're still on that journey in terms of probably the players in our group now. There has to be some performance really to come into probably Rugby World Cup selection. There's about 41 players who played under us in the last 18 months that will probably be in the frame, and I think Warren spoke to the players yesterday, and for someone like Aaron Wainwright, what a great opportunity, his first meeting, to listen to the coach saying you've got a chance to make in Rugby World Cup 2019. You don't need any more motivation than that. So the players have been told that there's a great opportunity in the next sort of 3 weeks, and I'm sure they'll take it with both hands.
So what do you want from the next 3 weeks?
3 wins. That's the ultimate goal as a player and as a coach. I think we're Argentina haven't been there as a player. It's making sure that you just focus on the game of rugby. Obviously things off the field, whether it's a bus being late or not turning up, just making sure there's no distractions, and you take responsibility and accountability of doing what you can on the field of play. I think that the Jaguars are playing particularly well. The one thing which they've got, we've all seen the squad, the 31 players, all play for the Jags. They're involved with Argentina, and they've been together. They've been to Australia for 2 games, and then into New Zealand. They've been together for the last sort of 6-7 weeks on tour, and the cohesion that gives you as a squad, it gives you some self-belief and confidence. So it's going to be tough, and it's a great opportunity to have a game prior to those 2 tests in South Africa, because, as you mentioned earlier, Rob, to play a game at international level is another step up in terms of intensity, etc. And it certainly helped us as coaches and players back in 2017 when we were able to play England in a game prior to going to New Zealand, and that certainly gave us a sort of step up in terms of what we expected out in New Zealand for our first test. So that game against England in 2017 certainly provided a really good platform, although we weren't successful, I suppose, in those New Zealand tests. But when you go to any country, to have a game prior to playing a 2-test or 3-test series, it can only benefit you.
Well, if you're as competitive as you were in New Zealand, certainly in those first 2 tests, that will give you a good chance in Argentina.
Well, absolutely, and I think that obviously, in terms of the South Africa game, we played them in the autumn. They're under a new coach. Whoever is selected, the one thing when players are putting on international jersey, whatever country this summer, you're 12 months away from the best competition in the world, and that's the World Cup. And to play in a World Cup, many players who've missed out on opportunities through a selection injury, you want to give everything possible. And the players who have got their first opportunity in the national jersey against South Africa, they've got a chance of getting to Rugby World Cup. And the message that Warren spoke yesterday in training was fantastic for those boys. All of a sudden they're going out of the room, they're 6 foot tall, if they're 5 foot.
Has Sean Edwards been linked with other jobs? Has that changed the dynamic at all?
I'm not, whatever Sean has said or the rumours are, that's entirely up to Sean, and I'll almost talk about the internal perception we have within the squad as players and coaches, and I think that it's very strong. Whatever goes on outside those 4 walls, I think the players are very mature enough, and the coaches is to focus on the job in hand, and the job in hand is to go to Washington and beat South Africa and win a 2-match test series in Argentina.
Story as well. What about the 3 English-based boys that are below to work for them? Yeah,
look, it's disappointing. I think that when we sat down and as I just mentioned, going back to 2017 to play, England. I think England was outside the window when we played the England game. I think that was the 4th international, and those players were allowed to play. So I thought we had a sort of. We understood that they might have been available, but it's disappointing, and you feel for the players. From a coaching perspective, you feel for the players because you're a year away from a Rugby World Cup, and it's an opportunity to put their hand up for selection.
For someone like Luke Carter's maybe in particular, this might turn out to have been his only chance. Is that a fair comment?
Well, in terms of only because of his age of 35, I presume, but
no, because he wasn't in the Six Nations squad.
Yeah, I think when you look, Hamish, in terms of the journey and the selections that we've made, we haven't sort of swayed away from the journey of our Rugby World Cup, and we were almost anticipating to look at Luke for this tour because of the traits and the nature of where we're going. And I think that obviously that decision has been taken away from us. You never say never, because in the game of rugby you never know what's on the corner, and we've got a small pool of talent in Wales, and I think that we need as much talent available as possible when you're going into a Rugby World Cup, and you just feel for the player. There's an opportunity for Luke to put his hand up, and he hasn't had that opportunity for, I think the last time he was 2017, wasn't it? I think he
When would you have been able to join it? Would you have been able to go this week?
Join us in Argentina.
Yeah.
Because he'd only been stopped from playing 1 game. He could have played the other.
Yeah, he could have. Yeah. Yes.
But when would he have been able to travel? Or could he have trained with you this week?
No.
Right.
Because the game is outside the window.
Sorry, are Ross Moriarty and George North available for all 3 games on tour?
Yes.
So has the deal been done for those guys, obviously, then?
I'm unaware of a deal that's been done, but from what I'm led to believe, that they're available for selection for the 3 games, and they will be playing in the games.
Just going back to Shaun Edwards for a second, then, has he offered you any assurances as a coaching team that he's fully committed to Wales moving forward? Has it been discussed since the rumours have come out?
I think you can only watch Shaun Edwards in training this morning to say he's fully committed. I think the players, in terms of his diligence, his coaching, and his ability to get the best out of the players, and I've seen no change in that body language.
Because Sam Robertson spoke about him last week, and it's a double-edged sword. He's said selfishly, he obviously wants someone of Sean's calibre to stay, but it shows the high regard he's held in. He is linked with these roles.
Well, I think all coaches are going to be linked with roles. It's a watershed in the coaching and playing when you come to Rugby World Cups or Lions tours, and I think that's a natural thing that happens. And it's probably been accelerated a little bit more this time because of the fallout, probably the number of coaches in the Premiership and places and jobs that have been available.
Robbie, was glad the game on Saturday's played on grass, not on 4G. And would you have, there weren't many round in your time, would you have liked to have played? What have you made of all of that?
Look, personally, I've never been a fan of playing on that surface. Obviously currently as well in these hot conditions, obviously it's very hot, and it's quite unforgiving surface, and I'm not sure if many of the forwards would have gone down in the early 90s on that surface. Obviously they're much fitter, stronger now, but it is a tough surface. Certainly from our perspective, coaching, we're very lucky and fortunate in terms of the indoor barn, and we'll always do light, not non-contact games in those situations. But look, I think that it's a modern day game now whereby a lot of clubs and big clubs have got entertainment prior to games, and you can appreciate the benefit that they give probably outside of the game of rugby as well. It's unfortunate the situation that happened with the Scarlets, and you do feel for the players obviously in that situation. But I don't think that will be far from their mind come this weekend.
Robbie called up Ashton here in 2017 for the international. What are you looking for in this?
Just the continuation of our game. I think that I spoke to the players yesterday. It's important we go to the next level in terms of being accurate and in terms of our decision making. I thought we attacked pretty well throughout the championship. I think that the last game was probably the most disappointing against France, but sometimes winning ugly against a very good side, and bearing in mind I think that French side was totally underestimated by everyone. I think that they probably should have beaten Ireland if it wasn't for a fantastic drop goal by Johnny in the last minute. They've done quite remarkably well against England, and they're a very, very good side, and they're one side that they are going to be a threat in Rugby World Cup. So to get over the line against an excellent team, probably it wasn't the landscape which we wanted, but we got over the line and won, and we come second in the championship. And it's just making sure now that we do the little things right, because that 1% makes a huge difference at our level, and we spoke about that yesterday with the players.
Ashton Hewitt, in terms of his chance out there, what's the...
Look, he's obviously put himself in the mix for the first game. Ashton came into the championship back in 2017 and unfortunately had the concussion. He's quick. I was really pleased with his communication in the outside channels yesterday in training. He's full of enthusiasm and confidence, as you'd expect him to be, and he offers a little bit of difference in terms of the amount of pace he has. Is the chance for Ashton now is maybe getting the ball in his hands as often as possible. We want 15 touches off him, and that's the next level up now. We want the best players getting ball as often as they can in their hands, and that's his challenge in the next 3 weeks, but he will get the opportunity.
All done. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.